revolutionary philosophy, an ideal and concepts developed by three longtime revolutionaries for the continuation of Panther ideology and the giving of proper knowledge and information for movements to move forward and progress. The three members of the Panther 48 is myself, Brother Syke, Brother Robert Ward Williams, and Brother E, which I'll let these brothers introduce themselves in a minute. I'm gonna read the Panther 48 mission statement, and then I'm gonna pass it to Brother Robert Ward Williams to introduce who and give you a little background on himself. The mission of the Panther 48 is this: to establish a perpetual, stabilized repository of revolutionary information geared toward the proper development of leadership for organizations, communities, households, and self, while offering guidance for all groups of builders for the sake of continued continuity. The knowledge is founded on historical and contemporary Panther ideologies, but is universally applied. Welcome to the 48. Now I want to build just a little bit, and I know I said I'm for the past the Brother War, but you know how I can get sometimes. I want to build just a little bit on what Panther 48 is. When you hear Panther 48, 9 times out of 10, the person is thinking, okay, I'm going to see 48 Panthers. I'm going to see 48 Panthers building and talking about walking down the street with some guns. Maybe this is your ideal of what the Panther 48 is or what revolution is. 48 is not the number of people that's a part of this council. But 48 represents an ideal, a concept. 48 can be rounded out from a numerical symbolic point of view. All schools of builders in ancient times believed that numbers had a philosophical viewpoint to them. All schools of builders believe this at some point. For instance, give you a good example. 4 has been historically accepted to represent foundation. If you look at a house has a 4-sided foundation. Look at the planet itself. When we deal with direction, we look at north, east, south, and west. We look at 4 directions. Look at the human body. We got 2 legs and 2 arms. So that 4-sided foundation, 4 has come to represent a foundation. And this is what we'll call ourselves building on, a revolutionary foundation of knowledge. 8, if you look at the number 8, it's basically an infinity symbol. And we talk about revolutionary continuity. But infinity has its 2 extremes: its ability to build and its ability to destroy. Birth and death in it. So when we understand continuity, we understand that something will die and something will be rebuilt again. And this is where we come from with these concepts of 48. 48 has in recent times, in contemporary times, been used as the number for expressing philosophy. We can look at Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, or we can go all the way to Pimpin' Ken's 48 Rules of the Game with his Pimpology book. All of these people keep expressing a foundation of philosophies with 48. And we are expressing the foundation of philosophy for Panther revolutionary ideology with the same principle. Not saying that the Panther 48 will be limited to these 3, but this 3 also has its numerical representation. 3 in ancient times has always represented rebirth. And we believe that the foundation of any true revolutionary ideology is founded or comes from 3 different but compatible backgrounds. Usually revolutionaries rise up. If you look at every revolutionary throughout history, if you just look into the history of the Panther Party, you'll find these 3: the college campus, collegiate, the military, the militant, or the street cat. You'll find these people rising from these different environments and becoming the major leaders and major voices in those revolutionary organizations. And these 3 that I just described can be represented by Stokely Carmichael coming from the college campus, Geronimo Pratt coming from the military, and people like Bunchy Carter coming from the streets. But I'm gonna pass this to Brother War. Brother War, why don't you introduce yourself to the people?
Hey, I'm Brother Robert War, and I guess I want to just go into a little bit as to what even brought me into the movement. Well, as I was a kid, I basically grew up with a background of hunting and fishing. My father was a Vietnam veteran, and my opinion, part of him never left the war. And so from that standpoint, he loved the woods. He loved basically being away from people, put it that way. And I owned my first gun at 8 years old after 150. But the deal is I basically grew out of or got attracted to the party because as I got older, I was engaging in dealing with what I refer to as activities that required, negative activities that required firearms. So the Panther Party was an attraction to me simply because of, the stance that, came with it and got promoted. But what I found out is as I finally heard about these cats in Dallas called the New Black Panther Party, and this was right around the time when you was dealing with when the Louis Farrakhan was establishing the Million Man March. You had local organizing committees around that, and so I basically hunted and chased these cats down, and finally ran into one of them. And it took me about a good year to get involved with it, to actually get accepted by the New Black Panther Party in Dallas. But the funny thing about that is, again, I was involved in a use of weapons that wasn't the righteous thing to be involved in, as a young brother. But from that standpoint, the discipline that it took me just to get in the ranks, over time, that and being a part of it, just over the course of a year and a half, that discipline changed my my outlet from one of being involved in stuff that I shouldn't have been engaging in to growing to a love for our people. So as a result of that, I rose in love serving the people and became a full-time student of knowledge and changed into an administrator. So I basically became one of the chief administrators of the New Black Panther Party in Dallas, Texas, and found my new calling. Recognized and figured out that I had skills that was very much needed, and that and they put them to the test and they put them to use. So what this did was grow me in my love for the people and my recognition that we have to be one with knowledge, we have to be one with growth. And so I took on the name War actually before I joined the party, but it had a different representation. But as I joined the party, I started broke that down to the acronyms willing and ready. And one of the problems with that is a lot of people think that those are interchangeable, that's one and the same. But it's a big difference between being willing and ready. Willingness has to do with the heart of the person and addressing the desire to perform and produce or endure. Whereas ready, on the other hand, addresses having the necessary resources or support system to actually perform a task successfully. So the two are not one and the same. And so I think it's real important, and this became one of my key points as I deal with people coming through the ranks, is to make sure our folks are willing and ready and capable. So I even add that third one to be capable, because a lot of times we can be one of those three. Again, just like how Brother Syke was talking about overstanding the number system and geometric cycles. We're talking about three. We're talking about willing, we're talking about ready, and capable. All three of those have to coexist at the same time in order for our people to be actually able to engage in this Panther ideology. So I'm real a stickler on that, and I emphasize position of foundational baseline definitions all the time. And so I just want to throw that out there, and as we move forward, to me, that's one of the biggest things that we have to address and deal with as the Panther48, is making sure our people have a baseline of understanding on what they're getting into. So go ahead, Brother E.
Well, I am Brother Motherfucking E, and I didn't know we were going into teaching mode, y'all. I'm fighting with the farm out back all day, so I'm not in teach mode at this point. So I just stick to introducing myself and laying out just a little bit of what brought me to this point. Growing up, my mother was white, or is white. My father was black. So I grew up on the lower end of the economic spectrum, somewhere between niggas and white trash. While I had cats that I used to play with and run the streets with, one of them stole my mother's diamond earrings, one of them went on to be a crackhead, and one of them aspired to the heights of being a convicted murderer. So while all of that was developing, my mother was taking me to nuclear protest rallies and voter registration drives and other protest activities, working to get the governor elected and all of that. So I grew up in politics and resistance and the refusal to hang on to the mainstream. I remember my mother being the hippie that she is, and when I say hippie, I don't mean the millennial hippies that have kept the weed and got rid of the substance of today. I mean the hippies that burned their bras back in the day. My mother was a hippie that who was involved in activities that I recall the feds, the FBI coming and visiting the house. So growing up, that was the home life. In school, in elementary school, I spent a little bit of time in the principal's office for refusing to say the Pledge of Allegiance. So this is something that I never joined up for. I was just born into it, and in a sense had no real options. It's going to be there. It's going to be a part of who I am and what I do. When folks ask me sometimes, why are you involved? Why you do it? Sometimes the best I can say is that I don't know. It's just what I'm compelled to do. Some days I honestly couldn't tell you, but it's what I'm compelled to do. And it comes out in everything that I do, whether I'm intending for it to happen or not. Again, having grown up into it, going into high school, having this paradigm shift where I grew up closer to my mother, so there was a white sensibility, but then all of a sudden in high school, I realized, oh shit, I'm Black, and started hanging out with a totally different crowd, started doing Black things, learned to play spades and dominoes and all of those social aspects. My drama teacher in 11th to 12th grade gave me my first book of Malcolm speeches for a performance that I had to give, and that was it. I read Malcolm, and that's what turned it. That was my turning point, 1989. Almost to the date, I can tell you. Leaving high school, the activism in college just grew and became more. Fought the system to get Dr. King's birthday recognized and get a Black History program in the college that I was attending. Those were all things that were just coming naturally, and I fell into it and began doing it. Started moving outside of the college campus, worked with various study organizations in colleges that I attended, ended up being introduced to the new Black Panther Party via Brother War, hooked up with Psych when he relocated to the area that I was living in. And it just grew from there. Has spent pretty much since 1998, 97, somewhere around there, as a member of the party in one form or fashion, to some degree or another. In almost universally, my role is Minister of Information, which is pretty much where I am now with the Panther48. So yeah, I don't know if that runs it down. I don't have anything to teach on this point. This is just where I am, and that's me. Brother Syke, I guess it's over to you. Oh, one thing I did want to add with the 48, you were breaking down the symbolism and whatnot. A lot of people don't realize it, but the pyramids, we look at them in the pyramids, though they have a square base of 4 sides. If you look at them, especially Khufu, the Great Pyramid, if you look at it from above, the pyramids are actually 8-sided. There's a slight inward slant on each side, that instead of being flat on each side of the pyramid, they're slightly tilted inward. And then you can see it best if you look from above. So they're actually a 4-sided base with an 8-sided face on each side. So again, that 48 goes all the way back to at least the pyramids, with 3, 4, 5, whatever, 1,000 years ago. So yeah, I wanted to throw that in there for you. So I guess I was teaching a little bit. Appreciate that, bro.
Yes.
I was just as a say. I thought you didn't have anything to teach today.
My bad. See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It just happens. It just oozes out.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that, but yeah,
True indeed. True indeed. Well, since you said, I got to ask you that before I introduce myself. I like that when you brought up the pyramid, which is, because I was talking about the 4-sided foundation, and 4 symbolically representing foundation. We can even see that in the pyramid, because the pyramid itself represents man and man's evolution, or his spiritual or mental evolution. why it's 4 points, and I talked about it earlier, the 2 arms, 2 legs are foundated in the earth, are supposed to be foundated physically. Man is able to rise above his physical constraints by the rising of his mind, which those 4 points start at the earth or the pyramid, but as they rise and get higher, they become 1 point in the mind when it rises to the heavens itself. But